Hello, I'm Neil Singer, Safety Director for the Embraer Jets Operator Association. Welcome to our video series, Good to Great, where we will provide you with the tools to enhance the safe operation of your aircraft. Enjoy. Whether attending or teaching recurrent training, I see the most difficult tasks to execute are those that we either perform infrequently or not at all during normal operations. By following along and chair flying with me as I perform the check ride maneuvers, you can go into your next training event more confident and prepared. The clean stall will typically be done with the autopilot on until the stall. So as we pass through 130, we're going to leave the autopilot connected. At the first indication of the stall, the autopilot will disconnect, and that will be our cue to recover.
Stall.
There's the stall warning. Pitch down,
Autopilot.
add thrust.
Autopilot.
Once we're comfortably out of the yellow band,
Autopilot.
we can start to pitch back up towards our flight director. And as we recapture our entry altitude and at least 130 knots, we can reduce our thrust to about 50% N1. Takeoff configuration stall, we're at 5,000 feet. We're going to select flaps 1, bring our power to idle. As the speed decreases through 130 knots, autopilot comes off and we enter a 20-degree bank holding altitude.
Stall.
Stall indication, lower the nose, bring our wings to level and add thrust. As soon as we're out of the low speed awareness band, we can resume pitching up. Through 130 knots, flaps can come up. And as we approach our entry altitude, we can reduce thrust as we capture altitude so that we don't accelerate excessively. About 50% N1 is a good target. For the landing configuration stall, we're at 5,000 feet. We have our thrust set to 50%. We'll keep it there as we configure the airplane. We're going to go gear down. Speed checks for flaps 1. Flaps 2. We have 3 green, and speed checks for flaps full. We'll keep the thrust at 50% until we have flaps indicating full so we don't decelerate too quickly. Flaps indicating full, we'll go to idle thrust.
Autopilot.
130 knots, autopilot comes off and we stop trimming. Using back pressure alone, we're pitching up to maintain altitude.
Stall.
At the stall warning, we're adding thrust and lowering the nose at least 5 degrees.
Stall.
Now we're not touching the flaps until we're outside the low airspeed awareness band. Then we can go flaps to 2.
Altitude.
Slowly start pitching up. Positive rate of climb, gear up. 130, flaps can come up. As we approach our entry altitude, we'll make a good thrust reduction to about 50% N1. That keeps us from overspeeding the flaps as they're retracting and makes it easier to capture the altitude without shooting through it. For a nose high unusual attitude, if I'm not in a bank, I want to make sure I enter a bank. If I am in a bank, I want to steepen it up when I recover to about 50 degrees of bank, or even up to 60 degrees of bank. So here I am, I'm going to steepen the bank, and I'm feeling that nose almost slice down towards the horizon in the bank. This helps maintain positive G's on the airplane. Thrust is at max. Since my airspeed's low, I'm going to pitch slightly below the horizon, pick up a little speed before I start to pitch back up. That way I don't risk a stall as I load up the airplane on the pullout. Approaching straight and level flight, thrust as required, and back into normal flight. For a nose low unusual attitude, we don't want to pull out of the dive until our wings are level. So we find ourselves nose low in a bank, thrust goes to idle, spoilers as necessary. We level the wings first, and then we want to balance the pull out, not pulling too hard to overload the airplane, but pulling hard enough that we don't overspeed or impact the terrain, of course. Back at straight and level, we can close our spoilers if we use them and thrust back to a medium setting. Two engines spooling up. Thrust set. Airspeed's alive. 70 knots cross check. V1, rotate. Now if I've had the engine fail and I'm still rotating, I'm just gonna rotate nice and slowly. Positive rate, gear up, flight level change. We're gonna move that bug down to V2, and we're gonna pitch smoothly up to recapture V2 if we had a little extra airspeed during the rotation. We're trying to keep that ball centered or slightly deflected towards the good engine. We're trying to keep a little bit of bank, just a couple degrees into the good engine. Use some trim as necessary to help with our rudder force, holding V2 on the climb out. Cast message for the failure as we would expect. We've pre-bugged our acceleration altitude of 1,000 feet AGL. As we reach it, autopilot can come on, yaw damp off, so we're still maintaining the force. And we're going to select VFS with our speed selector. As we accelerate through V2 plus 11, the flaps can come up. And as we reach VFS, we can bring our thrust back to the con climb setting. Now, as soon as we're out of takeoff thrust, we lose that spring-loaded rudder boost, so we're gonna need a lot more rudder. And at that point, you're gonna probably want full yaw trim until you accelerate past VFS. We're approaching minimums
500.
with the ceiling and visibility reported right at minimum, so we're anticipating a go-around might be necessary.
Minimums.
We have to go around, pickle,
Autopilot.
power, pitch smoothly to the flight director, flaps up 2 clicks, in this case from full to 2. We have a positive rate of climb, gear up. We're going to select nav for the missed approach, and over to flight level change 160. At a safe altitude, at least 400 feet, and good airspeed above VFS, the flaps can come up the last 2 clicks, and we can reduce our thrust to the con climb position. From here on out, we're just staying tucked in the flight director, flying the missed approach. When the flaps are fully retracted, if we need to, we'll accelerate further to 200 or 220 knots, depending on our altitude for the remainder of the climb. For the single engine go around, I'm going to think about my rudder pedal as linked to the operative thrust lever. So as I advance that thrust lever, I'm smoothly advancing the rudder as well, trying to maintain coordination or slight ball deflection towards the good engine, in this case the left engine.
500.
The procedure starts exactly the same at minimums.
Autopilot.
Power
Minimums.
smoothly to
Minimums.
toga. Pitch smoothly to the flight director. Flaps go up 2 clicks. In this case to 1. There's a positive rate of climb. Gear can come up. I'm going to select nav, verify it. I'm going to select flight level change, move my speed bug down to VAC, and slowly increase my pitch so that I'm decreasing speed to VAC. Once the gear is up and the flaps are at 3, I'll have to pitch up quite a bit to maintain VAC, but I don't want to make those adjustments too quickly. I can come in with as much trim as I need. Now I'm flying the missed approach, so my flight director will be giving me guidance via the FMS. And I'm waiting till 1000 AGL for my acceleration altitude. Autopilot on, yaw damp off. I'm going to select VFS in the speed selector. As I accelerate through about VAC plus 11, which is going to be just about VFS, I can bring my flaps to 0. And as I reach VFS, I can bring my power back to climb, anticipating that I'm going to need a lot more rudder force at that point, losing the rudder boost. Approaching minimums on a circling approach. We're configured for the landing, in this case full flaps. We're maintaining a speed of 130 knots. I have my range ring set to 2.5 miles. As soon as I'm 2.7 miles from the landing runway, I'm inside the protected area at MDA. So with the runway in sight, I've preset my heading bug.
Minimums.
I can go to the heading mode. And now, as long as any part of any runway sits inside that 2.5 mile ring as a Class C aircraft, I'm in protected airspace. With MDA captured, I can set my missed approach altitude. And I have a full 2.5 miles to maneuver. Technically 2.7, but this is the range ring we have. I have my extended center lines turned on and my track vector set to 60 seconds. That's going to give me instantaneous turn radius information. So at about this point, I'm going to turn to my base leg, and I can see as I approach final if that base turn onto final is going to be a little bit short or a little bit past it. More likely to overshoot than undershoot historically, so I want to bias towards starting that turn maybe a little early. I can always roll out of the turn a bit if I need to, but it's much harder to correct for an overshoot. Similarly, pilots tend to end up high on a circle to land, so I'm going to start down at 500 feet a minute when I leave MDA. If I have to level off for a second, I can, but it's easier to correct being slightly low than slightly high on a circle. So when I think I'm at about the right spot to start that turn, I'm going to spin my heading bug around to the landing runway heading, select VS with a descent of 500 feet a minute.
Autopilot.
Autopilot's going to come off, and I'm going to stay tucked into that flight director, start slowing to VREF. Now, if I feel like that turn radius is tighter than I need, I can just roll out for a second, shallow it out. I'd like to turn wings level to join a mile final to a half mile final so that the last 100 to 200 feet of descent are wings level and lined up. Slowing to ref. If I have synthetic vision, I can see on final whether I'm slightly high or low by looking where the runway threshold sits on my pitch scale. If I want to be coming down 3 degrees, then I want the runway threshold to sit at the 3 degree point on the PFD, and it's just about there right now, so I know I'm on a good descent angle. If I'm slightly slow, I'll correct my airspeed, aiming to be at VREF to 50 feet. aiming to cross the threshold at 50 feet. 50 feet, thrust can go to idle, and we're aiming to touch down as close to the 1,000-foot marks as we can. Review these maneuvers as often as you need to before your next recurrent for a much more relaxed and efficient training experience. Thank you for joining us, and a special thank you to ECTS for the generous donation of the simulator time and staffing that makes these videos possible. Fly safely and look for more videos soon. And if there's a topic you'd like to see us cover, please send an email to safety@ejoa.aero.